Thank you very much. Now, it was back in March that the British mountaineer Kenton Cool came on to breakfast to tell us about his plans to take a 1924 Olympic gold medal to the top of Mount Everest.
Yes, it was given to the members of a British team who made an unsuccessful attempt on the mountain back in 1922. At the time, they vowed to take it to the top one day. Well, early yesterday, Kenton fulfilled their wishes and in the process reached the peak for the 10th time. We were hoping to speak to him. Given that it's Everest, we are having a couple of technical issues, but we may speak to him.
We're going to keep trying to get through. But in the meantime, let's talk to Alan Hinkes, who's here in the studio with us. You're a friend of Kenton's. You're also a mountaineer yourself. You've been up Everest. Just a little bit about I mean, taking that medal up there, it's a very special moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something different for Kenton, yeah. I'm envious that he's managed to get up there again. Good effort.
Yeah.
Good old Kenton. I hope we can get through to him later.
Well, that is the plan.
Yeah, tell us about the mountain itself, because it has hit the headlines this week again for really sad reasons. People are once again trying to reach the summit, dying on their way to get there. Why does that happen still?
Well, it is the highest mountain in the world. It is dangerous. It is an area known as the death zone. And people think that that's been over dramatic, but humans are literally dying when you're up above 7,500 metres, and Everest is at 8,500 metres. So you can only live for a matter of 36 hours, so you've got to keep moving. If you get stuck, you're going to die of AMS, that's acute mountain sickness. There's no chance of rescue because there's no helis. Too high for helicopters. The highest a heli can get is 6,500 metres, say. There's no rescue teams. If there were, it would take them a month to acclimatise, so you really are out there. In fact, if you think of it, you're probably more out there than if you're in the orbiting space station, because they could probably do something for you there, like send another spaceship. So it really is a dangerous environment, but I think people are starting to underestimate it. There's hundreds attempting it, and I think some of them are perhaps not as experienced as they should be, using guides like myself or Kenton, and the local guides as well, and they pay a lot of money, and then they sort of subjugate their anxiety to someone else, say, or and they just perhaps don't know what they're letting themselves in for.
We've heard some. We've heard some very harrowing stories of, as you explained, the dangers on the mountain. There was one incident I remember where there was a man injured right at the top of Everest, and climbers, he was conscious but clearly going to die, and mountaineers who wanted to reach the top of the mountain were walking past, were climbing on beyond and not remaining with him. And a lot of people question the ethics of that situation. None of us have been there. You have. Have you been in those kind of situations when you've seen people in trouble, if you like, knowing that they're not going to survive?
Yes, I have helped people down. It is very difficult to help someone. They've got to be walking wounded. I sort of gave in on K2 once, the second highest mountain in the world, and helped a mountaineer down. And he was in that serious a situation. When he got down, he was badly frostbitten, and he ended up having fingers and toes amputated. Everest is a peculiar situation in that these people that are going past people who are perhaps dying, they're perhaps not that experienced themselves, so they probably couldn't do anything. But perhaps the guides that are with them could do something. It's a tricky situation.
But like you say, they've paid for those guides. So is there kind of like a sort of mountain focus then, that you perhaps lose you don't see what's going on around you?
I think it's sad to say, but some of these people, there's very little you could do for them except sit with them until they die and hold their hand, which perhaps you should, but you can't sit with them very long or else you'll perish as well. Yeah. Usually it's these people's own fault they've got themselves into that situation, which doesn't mean that you shouldn't help them, obviously, and most true mountaineers would help someone if they could. But there's not much these people could do for them, really.
And I know there was a situation, I think it was last week, when they were saying the mountain was too crowded. There were too many people right at the top, literally, trying to get past one another.
Yeah. There are about 300 people, possibly more, attempting Everest, but just to put it in perspective, from June to April, like next month till next April, there'll be nobody in Everest. It's just this weather window when people are attempting it. And if you go to Snowdon, the highest mountain in Wales, or Ben Nevis, the highest mountain in Britain, or Scafell Pike, or even Skidder near Keswick, if you go there this weekend, there might be thousands of people. Yeah. So if they can handle thousands, I think Everest can handle hundreds. And if you go to K2, the second highest mountain in the world, there'll be nobody there. So should I say real men and real women climb K2?
Don't look at me like that.
Now, listen, Alan, it's lovely to see you here.
We were talking about Kenton, weren't we? And I think we can speak to him right now.
Great.
Kenton, did you make it to the top of Everest yesterday with this medal?
I did, yes. The medal and myself were on top about 5 o'clock in the morning local time.
Tell us a little bit about your ascent. Did it go smoothly? Everything go according to plan?
It went magnificently well. It was well thought out, well planned, and executed beautifully. The only problem was we got there slightly too early. It was still dark, so we couldn't do any filming to start with. So we had to hang around for half an hour before we could start to film. But other than that, it went incredibly smoothly.
And what did you do with the medal when you got there with it?
Well, lots of people have been asking that. We took some photographs, we did some filming. And then I actually laid it to rest with it looks like a postcard, which is a blessed picture from the local Lama Geshe. And I put them both together and just placed them on the summit together and just left them there for a few minutes. And I'm not really religious and things like that, but I just thought it was very important that medal just had a little bit of time where it kind of belonged to be. The pledge made way back in 1924 by Lieutenant Colonel Strutt to Kubitan when those medals were handed over. So it was just laid there for a few minutes before I brought it back down again.
Kenton, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to chat with you a little bit later on. The marvels of modern technology. And there we are, speaking to someone halfway up Everest.
It's brilliant. I remember having sat phones when I've been there, and but now using Skype and what have you is fantastic.
We'll talk later on. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that. No, it was back in March that the British mountaineer Kenton Cool came on to breakfast to tell us about his plans to take a 1924 Olympic gold medal to the top of Mount Everest. It was given to members of a British team who made an unsuccessful attempt on the mountain in 1922.
Yes, at the time they vowed to take it to the top one day. Well, early yesterday, Kenton fulfilled those wishes and in the process reached the peak for his 10th time. We're hoping to speak to him via Skype, but at the moment there are a few technical problems, so we can't do that. But in the studio with us now, Alan Hinkes, who's conquered Everest himself quite a few times. Is that right?
Yes, I climbed Everest in '96. It seems like another life, a long time ago. I was back on Everest last year as well. Hope we can get Kenton, because it'd be great to speak to him. He's an
we
old
understand
friend.
he has successfully got to the top. He's taken that gold medal, and that's very special, isn't it? It's a long time waiting for that to happen.
Yes, a lot of people don't realise that these mountaineers in the 20s got the Olympic medal for Everest. It is so it is in a way one of the first Olympic sports, which it's not really recognised as an Olympic sport now, although we may be bringing rock climbing into the Olympics later. So it's fantastic what Kenton's done. Good effort.
And when you think, I mean, we're looking at some of the climbers in the 1920s, as compared, I mean, you've climbed now, presumably you're armed with wonderful technology and equipment. Do you think back and wonder at their achievements? Yes,
I mean, some of the equipment isn't that much different. We have lighter boots now, plastic boots, and we've got modern clothing. I mean, the difference is you've got the modern communications. You know, Kenton can speak to us on a satellite phone if he gets it working.
Yes, the one thing that hasn't changed then, actually, and you make that point earlier, is that people still die on that mountain. I think 4 people this week.
Yes, it's still a dangerous environment, and so it should never be underestimated. And I mean, you need a lot of experience, really.
They call it the death zone, don't they?
Yep, above 7,500 metres is a death zone, because humans can't live at that altitude. I mean, you're up there where jumbo jets fly, you see. And if you think about it, when you're in a jumbo jet, you're surrounded by that steel aluminium container, and they pump oxygen in and they pressurise it, so you're out there where jumbo jets fly. So it's a pretty hostile environment.
And Alan, do a different set of ethics apply up there? I'm thinking of the stories many people have heard about climbers who get into trouble right at the top, can't get them down, particularly on Everest, and people are making decisions about, do I just carry on with my climb, knowing that I can't practically do anything anyway? These are decisions that, in the normal walks of life people don't have to make.
Yeah, it is a tricky situation up there, and is your brain working properly with the lack of oxygen, with hypoxia? Ethics are ethics, and climbers are very ethical people. There are a lot of climbers on Everest who, dare I say, are not climbers because they've paid money to try and go there. I mean, they learn climbing skills, and they're suffering a lot, and they've got the chance of being killed. So to climb Everest is a fantastic achievement. But most climbers, are very ethical. They would help people if they could.
Yes.
Are you saying then that those who, I suggest what you're saying is that those people who've paid a lot of money to get to the top, they see someone in trouble, frankly, they still want to get to the top?
I think some of
is that the mentality?
Yeah,
So
possibly some of them do. They wouldn't really be capable of helping anyone anyway. Some of the so-called clients, for want of a better word, some of them probably couldn't. But at the end of the day, it's very difficult to help someone. And if they're beyond physically helping themselves, there's not much you can do for them.
And there were stories this week, weren't there, of sort of like queues and bottlenecks to get up the mountain. And I don't know whether that contributed to the amount of people who died. Do you think it needs to be? I mean, it is a mountain, it's in a wild environment, but does it need to have more control about who's going up there, do you think?
That's up to the Nepalese on the Nepalese side, or the Chinese Tibetans on the Chinese side. It is a big mountain. It can handle hundreds of people, Everest. This weekend, in this great weather, there's going to be thousands of people on the British hills, and they're much smaller. So it can handle them, but obviously everybody goes up the same route, so it does cause a queue.
just one last thing, I'm always fascinated, Alan. Is it a myth that you literally climb past the bodies of people that are frozen and you look at them and they're just there?
Now and again there are, there is the odd body there, yes, which does make you realise your mortality and make you realise it can happen to you. It is tragic. Dare I say, it could have happened to me, and it's a nice place to, if you're going to rest anywhere for the rest of your life or eternity, it's not too bad a place to be, should I say, really. But there aren't that many. Often they're brought down or they're buried in the snow.
Thank you so much for talking to us. I'm sorry
We
to
haven't
you
managed to
and
get
also
on to Kenton, have we?
But
Kenton-
he is actually on Everest, so that
Well, if Kenton's listening somewhere, well done, mate.
we'll pass that on when we do get through to him. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Time now, 8:48. You're watching Breakfast from BBC News. A reminder of our main stories this morning.